And let's start with something which is interesting for all the people of Ukraine. Winter is coming. We hear that winter will be difficult, and among one of the things we have to do is to get ready for this winter. I'm talking about energy independence, energy, like let's say pillar, and we have heard that in Zakarpattia there will be 10 gas generator power stations. So could you please tell us what is the situation with this process? But because, well, wind energy is called one of the most secure this safety things. Talking about, well, gas generation, it's really the case. Now we have lots of applications. I'm talking about 100 megawatt of gas generation that we are supposed to have here in Zakarpattia. And I would say that we already have technical documents for about 80 megawatt, and lots of businesses have already bought these installations and these generation installations. Svalyava 20 megawatt, Uzhhorod, if I'm not mistaken, 40 megawatt, also Shava and Hust. And that's really good because to some extent this is decentralization of energy supply. And I would also add here wind energy, which is developing here, and we also have lots of applications. And probably you have already seen our first wind turbine, 4.8 megawatt, and we are going to have the second one, which will have about 5.5 megawatt. And we also have good experience here. We have also very promising plans. If I'm not mistaken, it's about 100 megawatt. We have these alternative sources of energy, gas, power, solar power stations, hydro power stations, and they cover already about 300 megawatt. And we have plans till the end of the year also for another 300 megawatt. And that means that, well, we are as much as independent as possible. But these are so far still plans. Let's hope that at least half of them will be implemented. Well, coming back, how many have been built out of 10? You have mentioned 4 regions, Uzhhorod, Svalyava, Ershava, and Pelopets. Are we talking about gas generation? Yes. Well, being built, this is probably a bit too much. Well, we have bought installations for 220 megawatts. We are in the process of installing them, but I know definitely that till the end of the year they will be in operation. 20 megawatts in Svalyava and the same amount in Uzhhorod. Well, this is a dynamic process, and I do hope we shall have about 50 megawatts till the end of the year. Armand, will you add something about gas generation? Welcome in our Zakarpattia, dear guests, and I would like to express our gratitude to the organizers of this forum for organizing it for the 5th year running. And at the same time, the organizers managed to raise new issues and new questions. Talking about gas generation, well, it's not a simple process, and it's to some extent a new topic for the Zakarpattia region and for Ukraine in general. Just the day before yesterday, we had a talk with the head of one of the gas gas enterprises, and he was talking about small installations for 5 megawatt or 10 megawatt. And once again, this is a new branch of our development, so this is another point that may be added to solar power stations that are used in the households. Gas heating stations also can be used in the households. We have already mentioned today wind turbines, and our region has very big plans for them. And there is one community where one of these wind turbines is installed. And there was even a scandal there when it was announced that now this community won't have any blackouts. But it turned out that, uh, this question was not discussed with the Oblast administration. And could you please tell us, those communities where we have alternative sources of energy, do they have a sort of magic injection from blackout? Does it mean that they have enough electricity supply? So does it mean that they will have electricity when there won't be any power there? Because we also have some communities where we have small hydropower stations. So is this electricity supply enough? Is it possible to avoid blackouts? Well, that's complicated, but we should strive for energy independence, at least in the Zakarpattia region, and well, that's possible. Whether a certain territorial community was guaranteed uh, that there won't be any blackouts, well, that is difficult to say, but well, definitely the taxes will stay in this territorial community, and this will be an advantage. Well, those communities that have their alternative sources of energy, that they have restorative sources of energy, definitely have more chances for having electricity during the blackout. In order to uh, still ensure it on the central level, it requires still some re-equipment. And if the community is ready to invest at least some amount of money into these processes, it is possible, and the community won't have any blackouts. As the heads of the regions, could you please tell us the following? In summer, we understood that in Zakarpattia uh, we have great number of solar power stations, individual ones. So we are one of the best regions regarding the number of such private solar power stations. Does it mean that now we are going to face another boom of household gas generators or household wind turbines? So will it become fashionable? I know that lots of heads of local communities actually come up with the proposals for such wind turbines. So are we going to witness the same boom as we had with these individual solar power stations? Are you talking about wind turbines or gas generation stations? Well, I'm talking about people being ready to invest into these things. Well, uh, wind turbines are quite expensive. Not all the communities can afford them. For example, we went to Austria and we saw lots of wind turbines being installed in the fields, and the owners are local self-governance authorities, and definitely they have certain profits. And this is the way for us. The local communities may take a loan, may install it, may earn money on electricity. So this is one of the ways for us. Can it be a boom or a hype? Probably not. But again, everything will depend on the situation on the battlefield. While there are shellings, we buy accumulators and batteries. The shelling has stopped. Again, people become a bit more passive. And well, in the past we didn't face this situation, but these are our current circumstances. I would probably divide this question into two parts, industrial and private. Regarding private part, 33% of households have electricity from solar power stations. This is the indicator all over Ukraine. So this trend is ongoing. It is stimulated by some state programs, 579. And we see that quite a big number of private households take some loans, and for example 2,000 hryvnias per month. Inflation is usually higher than 7%, and it's nice for every household if you take a loan with 7% of interest. And that means that solar power stations or some batteries, some accumulators are really something that every household can buy. If we are talking about the community level, the wind turbine installed in Nizhny Vorota, a community, well, is a pilot one, and we actually want Nizhny Vorota community to use it. Now the community is trying to find some funding sources, and they will need probably 6 or 7 years for it to pay off. And again, we have initiated the point of raising the investment threshold up to 700 million, and that means that each community will be able to provide its own electricity supply from any source of energy. Currently in Zakarpattia we have all three elements. I'm talking about sun, wind and water. And there was a joint decision with the regional state administration that each community should come up with its own energy autonomy plan, and certain communities have already made such plans, also with the help of USAID Hoverla project. So they already built such spatial plans considering energy independence. And also the investors today consider reducing the threshold, how you may start working with alternative sources of energy. Wind turbine is really expensive. It costs huge amount of money, but now we consider the model of issuing the so-called certificates, where every business person may become a co-investor of this or that alternative source of energy. And for example, the certificate may be for $100,000. And this is the amount of money which the average entrepreneur can afford in order to become a co-investor. This is a sort of a stock exchange, a sort of situations similar to issuing shares. This is the way we can develop the alternative energy sources. So just to finish the topic with wind energy, Mr. Myroslav, well, you have mentioned that in Austria and Germany there are lots of such wind turbines, but they are mainly in the flat areas. Well, our region is mountainous region, and why do you stress this topic? Do we have more wind in the mountains than in the valleys? I do not think that we have lots of researchers on the topic. So why do we consider mountainous area as very good one for wind turbines? Well, because nobody will be able to just put a very expensive wind turbine without any research. There are researchers, and again, wind is there where it is. For example, it may be in the valley in Austria, but with us it is in the mountains. I think you all saw it. that in Austria they have it in the valleys, but in some other countries, lots of wind turbines are installed in the mountainous areas. We are living in the modern world. Some people like it, some people do not like it, and that's okay. That's the way we live. But we should be aware of the fact that if the world is developing, we cannot just lag behind. Uh, well, if people, for example, ski in Austria and in Germany, why can't why we say to our people, no, we won't have any ski resorts here. I also want people to come to our region. We have better service. We have very talented and gifted people. For example, if you go to the Czech Republic or to Slovakia or to Hungary, then probably you will agree that Zakarpattia has the best cuisine. And well, we are talented in many other areas, but there shouldn't be any limitations for us. We should not be sad what can be done and what cannot be done. And if somebody tells us what to do and what not to do, one will be happy when people are tired of being happy in Europe.
Okay, so let's move on to talking about relocation, because that is something that Zakarpattia region didn't have before the full-scale invasion, and then it became a kind of a life-saving belt in the economic dimension. We have got different figures, but most of them agree on 400 companies relocated to Zakarpattia overall. Maybe you will tell what the figure for now is. And let's speak about the positive side of this relocation, because of course there are some negative nuances behind it. That's a dynamic process. A lot is being done. So what has really changed in Zakarpattia region with the arrival of large and medium-sized non-local business in the economic sense? Maybe you can take turns. Okay, let me start. Well, it's really true that relocated business for Zakarpattia became a new wave of development. Well, now we have 282 relocated businesses, so almost 300 of them fully functional businesses. Do you also include sole entrepreneurs? Yes, all the relocated businesses in all forms. Let me give you some figures. So the budget of Zakarpattia Regional State Administration in 2021, in the pre-war period, was 2,600,000, including all our taxes, subventions, subsidies. Now, our budget is 2,450,000, a little bit less than in 2021. But as far as dependence on the state budget was concerned, we had the 60% dependence on it. Now the dependence is by 25%, which shows that in Zakarpattia we have started earning our own money. And well, the budget gets split because it's not just the budget of the Zakarpattia region, that is the national budget, and that's about billions of hryvnias that we never managed to raise. Now it's like 2 billion. We used to have about 200 million, yes, for this budget, state budget. And what is the overall impact of this? Well, we are becoming more independent. That is a fact. And it's about jobs. It's about development of Zakarpattia residents. We become different. We never had the level of production that we have reached now. Our culture is probably a little bit different because we deal with the sheep breeding or wine growing, but the production that we've currently got is different because we produced windmills. We are interested in new things. Our people are coming back because the Zakarpattia residents normally used to go to some areas abroad to earn money, and sometimes our children didn't see their father for quite a period of time. There is a joke saying that a guy comes and the child says, "Mom, some guy has come," and the mother says, "But that's your father. He's just been abroad earning his living." But no, they can be staying together with their families. That's about jobs, hundreds of jobs, and a lot of enterprises are now being built. So our task of the authorities is to create favorable, comfortable conditions for them to stay here. They should develop, and our task is not to create barriers. Well, of course, we lack people because of the war, because of the conscription to the army. A lot of people have left. It's about 300,000 Zakarpattia residents that are staying abroad. Yes, we've got 300,000 IDPs who have moved here. So plus minus the figure is the same. It's more than 1 million of residents, but the breakdown of in terms of categories of population has changed, and we've got more elderly people now. So you have to understand that those 350,000 IDPs include 37% of the working age population. 11% of people generally don't want to work because mainly these are the elderly people. Okay, we'll have a separate panel discussion to IDPs. Let's not discuss this issue. Yes, I was just giving this figure for you to understand what the overall picture is like. As I ask you what changed in the region with the arrival of this business. So we stopped being so much dependent on the state. Yes, that's the drastic change. That's not the Zakarpattia that we used to have in 2021, both technologically and mentally. Thank you, Roman. Zakarpattia has 40% of relocated businesses if we take the overall picture for Ukraine. And if we take this 1 billion euros that was invested by relocated companies, we don't feel the immediate direct effect of this money because that's about implementation of different projects that are ongoing and that will still last for many years to come. The structure of the budget has changed, the regional budget, I mean. And if the level of subventions was the highest in the state, probably it's going down. And for Zakarpattia communities to really feel the immediate changes, we need to first become non-subvention, non-subsidized region, and then we will be able to implement different projects and to give money for that. We are reducing the share of our dependence on the state budget, but our main contribution now is reducing the load on the state budget. That's what it is about. Next year, we will still be getting some conventions from the state, but if the trend continues in a year's time, after 2 years, I mean, the Zakarpattia will already be able to develop and implement its infrastructural internal projects. We will not be dependent on the state at all, because we are always saying that everything should be allocated to the army. No money for roads, no money for infrastructure. Zakarpattia has the third largest budget in Ukraine, but we are in place number 5 as far as military costs and the army are concerned. So first, we take care of the defense capacity of the country, and then we proceed with the development of the internal regional infrastructure. Of course, we are trying to strike the right balance, but still the focus is on the military costs. Thank you. And here is another question about the dark side of relocation. It's the question about one of the largest relocated companies. They are already building the kind of a town for their staff. This is Friendly Wind Technology in Perichin. That's something we didn't have. We didn't have any large metal industry complexes, but that is something that really changes the whole region. And this is not always well perceived. But along with this, we see that there is no discussion of what is happening. It's clear that you, as the authorities, want to provide favorable conditions for relocated businesses, bringing money into the region to keep developing, because this is about jobs and about the regional budget. But with this company, the region is changing fully. We already can see the windmills. Well, that's about environmental issues. There is some conflict in the air, but why do we lack communication regarding those issues? Why is there no communication regarding the standpoint of this company? Well, of course, it's an advantage and it's a kind of a victory for the region that the company relocated to Zakarpattia, not to Lviv region, because they are leaving their money here. But anyway, this changes drastically everything, in particular in the mountainous communities. And the perception is not so much optimistic. Why? Why so? Why do we lack this communication regarding, let's say, these 100 windmills that we will going to have soon in the nearest future? And please scrutinize the case of friendly wind technology. Well, the Chinese people normally say that if you're not talking about the problem, there is no problem. Well, maybe. Maybe yes, maybe no. Well, let's have a different look at it. I think that the authorities in Ukraine are very much open, starting with declarations and up to a website, digitalization, and everything we do to stay public. We are among the most open authorities in throughout the different countries of the world. So I haven't heard that there is lack of communication. There are, of course, some separate opinions, but generally people perceive it well. We live in the civilized world, and if this is in conformity with the legislation, so why shouldn't they be developing those windmills? The displaced people, these are Ukrainians and who have been relocated, and we need to understand that Zakarpattia residents could also face this problem if they were to be displaced to Donetsk. We are all Ukrainians. We need to host people from other parts of Ukraine. But I agree that the Zakarpattia residents and Zakarpattia region is a very specific one, a unique one with many minorities here, and we have unique culture. We try to preserve our culture. Our language is unique. And even Mrs. Farion once told this. I treat her with respect, and she really said, Zakarpattia residents, please preserve your language. But you know, she was very critical. So Zakarpattia residents need to be proud of that, and other people just need to respect us the way we respect everybody else. So I don't think that there is a problem here, and we don't need to raise a problem somewhere where it does not exist. As far as this company you mentioned is concerned, it's really the largest and the most powerful company, paying the largest amount of taxes. And by the way, regarding taxes, I found a report in 2021, over 10 months, we paid to the state budget 3,200,000,000, though this is from the regional budget. In 2024, for 10 months, we paid 7,700,000,000. So actually, that's quite illustrative. If we take the same figures for the local budget in 2021 over 10 months, we got, I include here all the local budgets, we got 4,800,000,000. And this year, for the same period of time, we got 7 billion and something. So here is where we really win as the region. And of course, if you're doing something, there will be pros and cons, but we need to realize that we have to tolerate what is going on. Maybe somebody doesn't have to tolerate this. Maybe somebody is even pleased with such development. Please, your point of view, friendly wind technology in Parachin, right? So we can translate all these three words. And, you know, friendly wind, well, these words are all positive. And of course, the approach to the company should also be positive. Actually, the approach on both sides should be positive, both from the point of view of the residents of Zakarpattia and from the point of view of investors. Marketing always has its role to play. I can tell you that there are many, many exaggerations, hyperrealizations, and distortions. And that's a problem because the level of knowledge in this field is very low. Definitely, because that's a new thing. Yes, sure. And we, as regional authorities, have the task to provide for one thing to happen for the compliance with the specific nature protection standards. So we need to prevent installation of windmills or any other structures in nature conservation areas. We need to prevent our virgin forests from death or destruction. But in fact, the intention is not to build 100 but more windmills, as far as I know. And there was a period in time when a Turkish company came to a meeting with us, me and Victor Maketa listened to them and said that, okay, here is your project. Um, Actually, one of the bad key companies not acting in the good faith sold this project to you. You invested money into it, but this project is also valid for the nature conservation area. So you either have to reject the project, which would be logical, or you have to introduce some changes into this project. Um, and then your windmills, some of them should be quitted. You will just reduce the scope of generation, the scope of the project, the number of windmills, but you will be implementing the project within the scope allowed for by the valid legislation without affecting any nature conservation areas. They left and they never came back. And that was actually the project for 120 kilowatts. Megawatts, I'm sorry, yes, sure. So we've got a number of projects like this, and our task as that of the regional authorities and law enforcement bodies to have those projects implemented only within the applicable legislation. We can't have the rights of communities and their residents violated because it's the community that should determine whether it wants to have renewable energy sources in its territory or not. Okay, let's move over from money to people to IDPs in Zakarpattia region. Well, we cannot say that we didn't have any of them before the full-scale invasion because in 2014 we got the first IDPs here, but of course we didn't have such an influx of people. And well, now there is another ongoing wave of evacuation of people from Pokrovsk direction, from Kharkiv region, from Sumy region. Do we have any vacancies for those people to live? I mean, the people from the regions where they have active hostilities, or are we full? Do we have any places in shelters and community centers? We should have those places. We cannot even ask this question whether we do have any places, vacant places, because we are supposed to provide those people with some homes. We've got 7 evacuation trains recently, and 360 evacuated people arrived. 145 of them are children. So how can we be asking this question? We are get elderly people, children, and we are the means of last resort for them. They were not willing to leave their homes. They don't know where they are going and what is there for them. I wouldn't like to be in their place, but it's really difficult. So we meet them. I go to the railway station myself. My deputies normally go to the railway station to meet them. And I would really like to express my gratitude to all the charitable organizations working in Zakarpattia because they prepared some tea, some sandwiches, some sweets. And then we together bring those IDPs to community centers and keep working with them. So we have wartime and we have to be like we are now, because that's our mission in this war. Well, regarding the figures, the number of people, in the first days it was about 500,000 people. I'm not going to talk about the people for whom Zakarpattia was just a transit point, because it was about 2 million. The people coming here and going abroad, they just stayed here for 2 days, for several days. Now we officially have 350,000 IDPs registered, um, or living here, and 126,000, these are the ones who have got registered as IDPs. And the share of children, elderly people, and people with disabilities is very high, which means that, you have said 300. This is not quite. Yes, I mean that the 300 is the number of people coming recently to us from those evacuation trains. What do we offer to those people now? What kind of support do we provide? We provide meals to the extent it is possible, and they cooperate with territorial communities. Territorial communities try to help, and I would also like to mention some charitable organizations. They always help us. All of these people are provided with housing, but the question is different. The question is that, we have placed those people in temporary shelters, and the word temporary speaks for itself, but they have been staying there for already the third year. Yes, we have invested a lot of money into repairs, and territorial communities made their contribution. The conditions are not perfect there. It may be different, but anyway, that is a temporary shelter, a temporary housing. And what comes next? Because 18,000 people, the elderly people, at least half of them are going to stay in Zakarpattia region. So it means that we have this principle, this formula, until the end of the war, or by the end of the war, plus 90 days. We will never displace anyone from here. Those people who want to live here will keep living here. Well, of course, there is something in the legislation about that, but definitely we will not expel anyone. But let's keep talking about the elderly people. These are 18,000 people who don't have any other place to go. And just imagine if that is just 1,000. They have to live their life somewhere. The state is providing some support to those people, but anyway, we should need forward, and we should take European best practices, because you know that they have those barna houses, they have the houses for the elderly people. Because with us it's different. We have some apartments, people live there, then they're facing some problems. So our task, as I think, is to achieve the situation when we understand where these people are going to live till the end of their life, and what the quality of their life is going to be. I think that this is the most important issue. Okay, let's also give the floor to Roman. He will speak on IDPs. Well, we know this figure. We know you mentioned that most of those people are children, the elderly people, people not of the working age. And one of the researchers says that 1/3 of the people living here, IDPs living here, is working, while the 2/3 are not working. So do we somehow deal with the integration of those people? Zakarpattia region is normally about villages and small towns, and we run the risk of having those ghettos where people have no communication out of their shelters with their communities. So do we work on that? Do we have any projects in place to somehow integrate IDPs into the life of the community? Well, currently in Zakarpattia, we do have the largest number of shelters if compared with other regions of Ukraine. We keep building those shelters with the donors' money and co-funding from the regional budget. So that's the first thing we are doing. We are trying to provide proper housing conditions for our IDPs. The other part of work that we do is mostly related to the working age population, because we have the program 33, 33, 33. 33% is funded by the community, 33% from the regional budget goes from the regional budget, and 33 is funded by the company that actually hires the staff. So you're talking about housing. Yes, about housing where these people can be accommodated. By these people, I mean the staff of a certain enterprise, a company. So these are quick fixes. And as far as socialization and integration are concerned, the IDPs of no non-working age or with disabilities are integrated into our internal social infrastructure, but we don't have any other additional special institutions that would be dealing directly with those IDPs. What I mean is that we have an overall social infrastructure, educational, healthcare one, and within this social infrastructure, these people exist. So, do you think that we would need any additional institutions? Maybe something more should be done in that respect. Well, in any case, that is the question that we need to think over. Okay, thank you. So let's move to another topic related to rehabilitation. Do you have the question? Yes, we have two commentators, so and we don't have that much time left. So I would rather ask you to move to the wrap up. Yes, something that was not beneficial for Zakarpattia region in our situation is that we have many injured servicemen, and we have not become region number one in terms of rehabilitation, in spite of all our clean, fresh air, spring waters, thermal waters. Lviv has become that region. So why so? Why didn't we manage to become the main rehabilitation hub? Why didn't we have this breakthrough? Because, well, of course, the guys who have been injured will not recover at a click of the button, but it's about development, it's about jobs, it's about the whole infrastructure. So why so? Well, if we compare ourselves to Lviv, I would not actually agree with you, because we may take neurosurgery as an example, and we have had treatment for 700 servicemen. They are already walking, and many of them even went back to the front line. So maybe we have become a leader in some respects. If you're talking about the recreational sanatoria, that we have, why we haven't engaged them? We have engaged them, and all the servicemen who came to us had this free of charge rehabilitation process in our resort complexes, and almost all sanatoria were engaged in that project, though they did it on a voluntary basis, and the guys could have some recreation in those sanatoria together with their families. And by the way, this program is still running. As far as the rehabilitation center that we are building is concerned, why are we so slow with the process? Well, that's a large scale project. Unfortunately, its cost is about 500 million, and we started with just a small idea, minor idea, to build something in our hospital for veterans. We wanted to have just a small gym, but then we decided that we will also engage another building that we have, the former maternity hospital, and that's what we started doing. So we have used about 120 million, and 60 came from the regional budget, and 60 came from the Czech Republic, from our partners, because they got the money from almost for almost 60 million. So we created an additional premises there, but that's a long-term process. And now we are having negotiations with the Minister of Health, in particular with our Minister, Viktor Leshko, and we are being included into the projects of the World Bank, but they have asked us to introduce some corrections into the budget. So we That's what we will do, and then we will get the money from the World Bank. And I think, well, it's really difficult to speak about the exact timeline, the deadline, but I think that within 2 years will be able to implement the project. Yes, you're right. Zakarpattia could have become better in this respect, but unfortunately, all those resort complexes are not state-owned ones. They are semi-private or fully private. So we try to cooperate with them, but it's not possible to the fullest extent. So I think that we still have a lot of things to do in this respect. We've been talking about marketing and about Unbroken and other projects in the region. Well, these projects are rather popular and well marketed. I think that probably this is what Zakarpattia lacks, advertising. Yes, but we also lack the centers to be advertised. I can even tell you more. I can tell you that suppose the Kosovo thermal springs have had rehabilitation for, not rehabilitation, but recreation for 2,000 children of servicemen. Last year it was 3,000. The number of servicemen themselves is not known to us, but definitely each single serviceman who wanted to have some rehabilitation here was listened to and got a chance for such recreation in that Kosovo Thermal Center. You mean Kosovo, yes? Yes. And we didn't get a single refusal, and that goes true for most sanatoriums in Zakarpattia. But we have to understand that these are not state-owned institutions, these are private institutions, and that's maybe why they are not doing this advertising, because this is private business that is supposed to earn something, and they just allocate a certain share to servicemen.
In Zakarpattia, there is a network of medical institutions, and every medical institution has a rehabilitation department, so it's functioning. And we have the idea to create a big rehabilitation center where the serviceman would feel as if he were not in the medical institution but in a five-star hotel. But it's a big project requiring lots of funding, and one cannot do it for just 6 months or even for a year. So 50% will be done from the regional budget fund, and 50% was supposed to be done from the donors' money. So we have already have a project, and we just implementing this project. We have already agreed with our donors, and we send our medical students to certain medical institutions abroad in order to get training on rehabilitation. In Uzhgorod Medical University, they have already increased the number of places for students 3 times in the specialization rehabilitation. So now we are trying to establish these ways. We are trying to do everything possible in order to provide high quality services to our servicemen. Unfortunately, we are already beyond our time, and we have actually 2 comments. Pavlo first, and then I have the next panel, so probably I will mention my remark during the next panel. Thank you. In my opinion, this is already a big plus that we communicate about the topics on regional development during the war. Today I have already heard about the achievements and accomplishments of our authorities, but these are both accomplishments of local authorities and territorial communities. I know how many things are done by territorial communities in order to implement a number of projects. I would probably mention several blocks. I understand that we do not have lots of time. Energy issues. Well, this is the wartime now, and definitely we would like to have energy, but somehow we do not want to develop alternative sources of energy. And I really liked what Roman said, that probably we lack professional discussions of the topic, and probably we should have more communication regarding this issue. We should understand that European Green Deal is in Europe, and actually they plan that till 2050 all the power in Europe will be produced from alternative sources of energy. So I think that the regional communities and regional authorities in Ukraine are working nice, and probably they should be a bit more active in their cooperation with the local communities. Talking about businesses and relocation of businesses, we cooperate a lot with local communities, and the territorial communities give lots of support to the relocated business. And these connections are established, and we also see the budget situation. Now it is really important to increase our budget, and we see that in our region the budget is growing, and this is really positive. But again, there is a problematic issue regarding communication. I know Parachin community, I developed the strategy, and the point was that the number of jobs was reducing in that community, and if it were not for investments, this community would really face lots of problems in the future. And the investments actually is a big plus for a local community. But if the public activists have some issues and concerns, that means communication should be really increased for the people to understand what problems they might face if it were not for investments. IDPs, well, our best resource is our people, and our communities, our host people call them our guests. And during the first year, there were like quick responses, shelters, food, etc. Now we should think about something else, how these people can be integrated into local communities. We should see them not as a burden, which sometimes is the case, but as a resource. Because, for example, if we are talking about school children, if they are in high school, they are our resource. And this is the task for local authorities to think how we should properly integrate them. Unfortunately, I have not heard about comprehensive integration programs for IDPs. Probably they do exist, but I just don't know about them. But I think this is another area where we can do something. And there is also another point, and this is the way we work with external resources. Well, the previous speakers have said that regional development projects are good things, but definitely we have to help the army. And here, again, we also have some strengths. I saw Miroslav's publication, how many resources were provided by our region. For example, recently we brought some people from Sumy, from Zaporizhia region to our Synovir and some Parachin community, and they were really impressed because they didn't have this activity regarding external resources. So I think this should be something we streamline our efforts into. And still, we lack strong institutions that will be able to process these funds if they are available. We understand that in the nearest future, probably the amount of funds will be growing, and that means that both at the regional and local level, we should be ready for this. We should enhance our institutional capacity because, well, funds are important, resources are important, and people are important, and we should work in all those areas. So you have actually mentioned lots of important points for both of us. I'm really impressed with the discussion. I see here some statistics about the growth we have witnessed since 2021. And Reopen Zakarpattia is held since 2021 or 2020. So we have this couple, Dozhansky, who contribute to this growth. But this growth is definitely made by the private sector as well, by the people living here in Zakarpattia, and by foreign investors. And we should be aware of the fact that it is done by those people. And I usually mentioned it in the ministry. And in the ministry, they say, we are doing it. And I all the time stress that, well, it's not you at the ministry who is doing it, but actually people at the local level. Thank you. Thank you, dear Minister. Definitely, behind every figure, we see somebody's efforts and somebody's hard work, and this is something we should be aware of. Thank you. I also would like to thank people who provided their comments for such nice generalizations. Talking about international cooperation. Well, we have not mentioned international cooperation because, well, we have not raised this issue here, but actually Zakarpattia participates in all European transborder programs that are available. And according to the recent results of one of the programs, the Carpattia region won 33 out of 42 projects. Now it's my turn to express our gratitude to you for answering the questions. Thank you very much, dear audience, for listening to our panel. And I have a wish to you. Well, open local authorities, that's great, but probably you should communicate more about everything you do. Thank you. Well, I'm not really happy about interrupting such conversations when people really are interested in the topic and want to mention something else. While my colleagues are preparing the stage for the next panel, I would like to say that probably this is one of the most human-centric approaches and formats during our forum, Reopen Zakarpattia. Why we are doing it like that? Because we need strength in order to survive during these difficult times. And when you share your story and your experience with other people, it may be something that inspires them and supports them.